congratulations, you have just come up with some content. You've written a blog post, or you've created a new episode for your podcast, or maybe you've come up with a social media post that you really like and you want to kind of distribute it out to a lot of different, maybe you have a lot of pages or something that you manage on social media, and you want to get all that out and get some eyeballs on it. Well, you're in luck, because today we're going to focus on the best way to get your content distributed once it's created. We're going to be using some social media schedulers, some podcasting distribution, and I've got a great tool coming up for multi-channel distribution of your written content like your blog. It's all coming up right here on episode 11. Thanks for hanging out with me. Let's get it started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tim Adkins Does Digital podcast. My name is Tim Adkins. I'm a professional digital and media specialist, marketer, graphic designer, blogger, and podcaster who has helped brands around the world create their own voice through creativity and communication. Thanks for hanging out with me today. We are going to talk about distribution. Now, if you joined me for the last episode, we were talking about three things. We were talking about what you say and how to say it, and then where to say it. So we talked about like how to say it and what to say in the last episode. And I told you that I was going to do a different episode because a distribution really needed an episode in itself because there's so much to talk about. A distribution of content, going on the record here, and I'm just going to go out and say it. Distribution is going to be one of the main focuses, if not the main focus buzzwords for digital creators in 2019. Before it was like content, and people were talking a lot about content, and content is king, and make sure you have all kinds of great content. And then it was consistency, and make sure you're putting something out every day or every week, or make sure that you show up so people will know that you're going to be there. And I think this time, rolling around now that we've talked about content, we've talked about consistency, I think the buzzword for this year is going to be distribution. Where do you put out the creative content? How can you get eyes and ears and everything into what you're creating? So let's talk a little bit about distribution. For the podcast, for example, for what I do here. Now, it used to be like, and it wasn't forever ago, I just started this thing like right before Christmas, right? Now it's now March. But it used to be what I would do is I would record the podcast and then I'd edit it and I'd throw it up on Anchor and that would be it. I mean, that's it. And then we just let people listen to it and there you go. But I don't do that anymore. As a matter of fact, I think I really spend more time on distributing the content now than I do in actually creating the content. Let me give you an indication of what my workflow is now. Now, this is what I do. I record it like I'm recording it now, and then I'll make edits because I say and so and hey, you know, and all of that. I use a lot of those words that they say in broadcast school you're not supposed to say. I do that a lot. Now, I leave some of them in. So if you're listening to me now and you say, well, you know, exactly just like what I did there, you know, all of that, and I leave a few of them in there, I take out about 2/3 of them in editing. So I record and I edit, and sometimes I'll make some cover art for the episode, and then I'll upload it to Anchor, right? But then, after that, there's other networks that are not covered by Anchor that I also upload to. I upload to Spreaker, I upload to SoundCloud, I upload to Mixcloud. All of those are not covered by Anchor's distribution. And Anchor does a fantastic job with distribution. I think I'm on 12 different networks through Anchor. So, and the reason I stay with Anchor is because of their amazing distribution, the way that they do things. I don't have to do a whole lot of heavy lifting for iTunes and Google Podcasts and Spotify and all that. Anchor does that for me. So that's one of the reasons why I really like Anchor. But Anchor doesn't go everywhere. So I upload to the networks that are not covered by Anchor. Then after that, I'll run it through an app that makes a video. Because what I want to do is I want to be able to distribute my podcast through video. A lot of people watch YouTube and listen to podcasts through that. So I'm making an actual video. And I will put that video on Facebook and I will post it also on YouTube. I'll do that separately because social media networks like YouTube and Facebook, they're competitors. So you want to upload each of that natively. We'll talk about that in a later broadcast. So I'll do all that, make the video, but I also want closed captioning, or maybe not closed captioning, but I just want captioning. And this is something I started doing the last episode, and I really liked it. I'll do captioning because, weirdly enough, many people will look at it like on their phones, but they'll look at it without sound. which I know is weird for a podcast, but they do it. So like if you're scrolling through, for example, and you're kind of looking through your phone, and, maybe words can show up that you can read, and then you can go, oh, that looks interesting. Maybe I'll listen to it. I run it through another app that's called Capwing, Kapwing, and that lets me add captioning to my videos. So it has captioning. It's a video. I upload that video to Facebook and to YouTube. Then, of course, now it's on YouTube. I also have LinkedIn, which if it's under 10 minutes, I can post it natively on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn only has like a 10-minute limit on what you could post. So I'll post the link to YouTube on LinkedIn. And then now, of course, there's Twitter as well. Twitter, which is really cool, lets me post a link and I can post a full episode on Twitter through a link. I usually use Overcast FM for that. I've used Radio Public and I believe Spreaker in the past, maybe even Stitcher. But I like Overcast FM because it's a not obtrusive, very small player, and you can listen to it right on Twitter. So that's really, really cool. So what does all of that get me? Can you hear the page turning? Is the microphone picking that up? Okay. What does this get me then? So after all is said and done, the podcast ends up on 18 podcast networks that I know of. Plus, it's got a presence on 4 social networks: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Plus, that's it. Okay, so it's those things, but it's a lot of places. And what that does for me is it kind of gets my name and out there, and it's easy access to what I'm saying. It's easy access to my content. So no matter where you go, if you're on Facebook or if you're on Twitter or if you're on LinkedIn and you come across my stuff, you can listen to it very easily. Plus, my name is out there, on different platforms. And I think that's important because name recognition is important. So if I'm on Facebook and you're seeing me, and then you're seeing me on Twitter as well, and then you're on LinkedIn or YouTube and you see me there as well, that's name recognition. That's repetitiveness. That's good, right? Now, are there cons to that? Sure. There's a bunch of things that are not really good with that. And one that I think a lot of creators are going to say immediately is it's hard to get accurate numbers on who's listening and where and how often, because there are different statistics. There's Facebook statistics and there's YouTube statistics and there's Anchor statistics. And lately Anchor statistics have been whack. They've been like way, way off. They're not reliable. So it's hard to get accurate numbers. But Anchor's numbers right now, lately, they've been really bad anyway. So to be honest with you, I really don't even know how many people are listening. I can have like a rough estimate. I think Anchor gives a pretty good estimate, but I think they're slow in loading up things as far as new listeners and all of that. I think that maybe with Spotify's takeover of Anchor, that maybe the statistics will be a little bit better, possibly. I don't know. If not, I've been looking at some other distributors out there. There are some that maybe do it a little bit better, but right now I'm really happy with Anchor. The way I see it, really, is that the numbers are not as important. What's more important is the message instead of the metrics. So if I can get the message out there, if you're listening, thanks for listening. That's great. I'm not into the vanity metrics, really. I know that I'm reaching people. I don't know how many people I'm reaching. And it would be nice to know how many, but there's no way of knowing right now. So that's the workflow for right now that I do on the podcast. We're going to talk about social media next. So social media distribution. When you post on social media on several platforms, sometimes it's several pages and several brands on each platform, it's hard to keep track of all of them and really to be consistent on each one. I know that through my work, even me personally, I have a digital strategist page, which is my public profile page. And then I have ClickBeetle Digital Marketing, which is the company that I'm launching. I've been in the process of launching it for like 2 years now. So that page is up, plus my personal Facebook page, plus my personal Twitter page, plus my Instagram. So you know where I'm going with this, right? Because you have probably all of those things too. So especially if you're doing this for clients or if you're doing it for your own name recognition or your own personal brand, you know how difficult it can be. It's hard to keep track of all of it and to be consistent on all of them. I have a hard time myself, even though I'm a social media professional. I have a very difficult time keeping up with it, even with the techniques that I'm giving you here in a bit. So I'm going to give you some tips, and another thing, it's going to be one of those do as I say, not as I do type things again. what to do, right? Okay, so you get a social media scheduler. There are a lot of them out there, and you can schedule your posts. You can find things. You can do it in about like an hour or two in the mornings. Find really good content and share it using a scheduler, or maybe create your own content or content that you've created in the past. It makes it easy. Most people, there are two big names for most people. It's either Buffer or it's Hootsuite. They use the two. I am not a fan really of either one. Hootsuite to me, it looks like the Starship Enterprise. I load it up and it's got all those different panels and everything. It just completely confuses me, right? So a lot of people like Hootsuite. I'm not really a big fan. I use two other schedulers. These are the ones I use. I use Amplifier, which is it's spelled a little weird. It's Amplifr. And I also use Social Pilot as well, which is really, really nice. Now, I was lucky enough to pick up Amplifier on AppSumo. AppSumo is awesome, by the way. I recommend that if you do digital marketing or digital media of any kind, AppSumo has great deals, and you should really kind of check into that. I got him on AppSumo. I've got a lifetime license. It's awesome. I can schedule my pages on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Now, you can't do it on your Facebook personal account because Facebook doesn't let you do that. But I share it from any of the other ones, and it gives me really good statistics. It emails me some stats, and I can get stats there on their page. It's really good. It's very easy to use. I really enjoy it. Social Pilot is the other one I use. It's a little bit more expensive, but I think it's the best one out there. I think it beats most of the bigger names. I used it when I was working with the agency that I was working with in the past. They loved it. I suggested it to them. They really liked it. It works very well for agencies that want to work with other clients. It's very effective. The stats are great. You can export reports on PDF. You can even use your own brand for that, so which is really cool. And of course, it's a little bit more expensive to do it that way. It has different tiers, but that's great. They were impressed. The agency that I was working on, I said, I use Social Pilot myself for some of my personal stuff. They do have a free option that you can use for just a limited amount, and I enjoyed it a lot, and they were very, very impressed with it. So at least with that, I impressed them. I don't know if I impressed them very much with the rest of the stuff. And that whole experience with the agency, I'm going to talk about that whole experience in a later episode. Believe me, it will be good listening. It's a good story. I'm not quite ready to elaborate on it yet, but when I do, I think you're going to enjoy it because I think it's going to be maybe a cautionary tale. Anyway, I've tried others. I've tried Hootsuite. I've tried the other Buffer, and those are the two that I really like. I didn't mention Instagram, by the way. What about Instagram? Well, for Instagram, the best scheduler out there, I still think, is Later.com. It used to be called Latergram, but then they shortened it to Later.com. My main Instagram account that I use is a business account, so it's tied to my Facebook public profile, which is great because it's a business account, so I can schedule posts on the desktop through Later.com, and they automatically post on Instagram. It's very handy. It works very, very well. I told you that we were going to talk about blog posts and written content, and this is really cool. I really like this. I've only done it a couple of times. Yeah, if you've gone to my blog page, if you've gone to timadkins.com, I only have 2 blog posts on the whole entire site. I get it. I know. I still have only 2 blog posts, but for these posts, I have used this technique. I've used these guys, and it works very well. So, like I said, I've only done this a couple of times, but I'm really excited about it. It's called Story Chief. It's another AppSumo tool that I picked up. I'm incredibly glad I did because it's incredible. This is great stuff. You can actually write content on the Story Chief platform, and then you can distribute it. Once you've got your written pieces done, you are able to distribute it to all your social media pages and to Medium and to all kinds of different places. It will schedule a link as well on LinkedIn, but it won't actually publish it as a LinkedIn article. So I would suggest that if you want to write an article and you want to put it on LinkedIn, I would suggest go ahead and write the article on LinkedIn natively. Other than that, though, Story Chief is incredible. You can actually even, and I do this with my blog, I write the stuff on Story Chief, and I have a WordPress plugin that I use that will allow me to go from Story Chief directly to my blog site. It's awesome. It also posts to Medium, to links to Facebook, to Twitter, like I said, to LinkedIn accounts if you want to do it that way. You get to edit each post for content, for visuals, like different types of like your headlines and your the descriptions. You can edit it for each. And then once all of that is set up and you want to publish it, you just hit one button and it publishes it to all of the places that you're pointing to. It's amazing. Also, you can embed things like video and all of that other stuff into your articles directly on StoryChief, like this podcast, for example. Once I'm done with the podcast, I can embed this podcast on the StoryChief platform, and it will distribute it out to the blog, for example. So in upcoming blog posts at timadkins.com, I'll be setting up examples of that. It's really very cool. Of course, once I'm putting it on my blog, it gives me another avenue to promote the podcast. So it's amazing. Check it out. I am an affiliate. I do have an affiliate link, and I may put that on the YouTube. So if you're looking at it, or if you're listening to this through YouTube, I may post the affiliate link there. But I'm not saying this because I'm an affiliate. I'm just saying it because I'm really impressed with it. You can do 5 stories a month on that for free if you want to. So you can check it out yourself. Just kind of recap here the links that I gave you, and I'll run those down. Headliner, the one that I use to make the video, is at headliner.app. That's headliner.app. Capwing is at capwing.com. Now that's spelled Kapwing.com. And that's what I used for captioning. The 2 social media distribution platforms that I use is Amplifier, which is at amplifier.com. That's amplifr.com. And Social Pilot, which is at socialpilot.co. Now, if you want to check out StoryChief, StoryChief is located at StoryChief, one word, storychief.io. And that's the places that I go. Those are the links that I'm giving you to also check out some of the things that I do for distribution. Okay, so coming up later, as far as the podcast goes, I'm going to kind of shift things up a little bit. I'm going to kind of refocus a little bit on what I'm doing. Kind of speak a little bit more personally and talk about some of my own experiences. I'd like to kind of let you get to know who I am on a more personal level. So the direction of the podcast, I'm not going away from the tips and tricks, but I want to create more content, and I want to try to create content about some of my personal experiences. And I'll be relating those to you as well. More interviews with people you know and people that you may not know, people that you should know. Just doing a little bit more frequency and more casual conversations. I think that's important, and I'm going to try to do that a little bit more often. And that's a wrap for this episode. I have a whole page worth of outro stuff that I'm going to talk to you about now. I'm going to tell you exactly where you can find this podcast. I'm going to give you the whole list, and I'm going to talk about a lot of other stuff too. Okay, so the Tim Adkins Does Digital podcast. It can be found everywhere that quality podcasts are sold. Here is the list of the 18 places that I know of that you can check it out. It's at Anchor, it's at Apple Podcasts or iTunes, at Google Podcasts, at TuneIn, Spotify, Overcast, CastBox, Radio Public, Podbean, Spreaker, Stitcher, Blueberry, Breaker, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Pocket Casts, Player FM, and Listen Notes. That's all 18 of them that I know of, and they may be floating around other places somewhere as well. Speaking of other places, full episodes are available or will be available once I get this done at YouTube at the ClickBeetle Digital Marketing channel. Also, full episodes are going to be available on Facebook on the same channel at the ClickBeetle Digital Marketing, and also at the Tim Adkins Digital Strategist page. That's my public profile page. Follow me on Twitter as well. You can follow me there at Tim Adkins Online. That's one word, Tim Adkins Online. I will be posting full episodes there at Twitter on my personal page. The blog that I've got 2 blog posts on is at timadkins.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can follow me there or reach out to me at Tim Adkins Online LinkedIn as well. Now, I do right now social media strategy and consulting, graphic design and branding, and website design and development. I occasionally do voiceovers as well. Hey, reach out to me and let me know how I can help you. You can support this podcast at Anchor FM/TimAdkins/support. And if you have the Anchor app, feel free to leave me a message there. If you're nice to me and if I like you, and I like most people, I may play that shout out on my next episode. So get the Anchor app and holler at me a little bit. Music beds that I use here are from Envato Elements and Storyblocks.com. So thank you for some amazing audio stuff that I use there. And I think that is just about all of it. So thanks for joining me. I have really enjoyed doing this. I'm going to be doing it again for you soon. I don't know what the next episode is going to be about, but I hope it's as fun for you as it is for me. It is very late. I'm looking at the clock right now, and it's like 20 minutes till 4 in the morning. All the distribution that I just talked about, I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Thanks for listening, and I'll check you out later.